I'm going to talk about 10 tips that are going to help you lead the best campaign ever. So my name's Robert. I know many of you, met with many of the leaders here, and I've travelled to 30 of the different countries that have done 40 Days for Life over the last 6 years. So it is such an exciting time to be part of 40 Days for Life at the moment. We've heard such great speeches today, how inspiring the different countries in Europe who've been part of this movement, doing such incredible work. Thank you to all the leaders who just gave a presentation. So I've got 10 points in my presentation, very simple thoughts, ideas, ways to help you lead the best campaign possible. The first of which is consider the ways in which God can work through your campaign. I covered this at the beginning, so just think about how God can work through your campaign. Now, many different examples of that, whether it be lives saved, grace-filled conversations, abortion staff who leave or have a crisis of conscience, people getting involved in pro-life activities for the first time ever, getting churches together, relationships that volunteers have with themselves, grace-filled conversations, getting together a national movement thanks to your effort, galvanizing young people, getting them involved in pro-life activities for the first time, encouraging them not to be afraid. Other ways that God works in this campaign: educating the public about abortion in the public square, leading post-abortive men and women into proven healing programs, getting media reports, even from biased media outlets, and helping to make abortion a political issue for both local and national elections, raising the profile of the pro-life movement. And getting memorable stories in a media campaign. For example, Alina, a woman who chose life at a vigil. She shared her story in Ealing, campaigning against the local council. That story's been heard by the national media in the United Kingdom. Getting a memorable story into the media. Inspiring volunteers with spiritual growth and challenging them to action. Seeing abortion centres close, changing the abortion narrative to one of grace-filled hope, forgiveness and reconciliation. Other ways that God can work through this campaign is getting the best pro-life resources ever for your efforts, and also inspiring other leaders in other towns or countries. Now, if another leader signs up in another city, helps save lives from that in another city. For example, we've heard from Croatia and from Germany. Those people who've been inspired and felt called to action in other cities, that's another way that God can spiritually bless your efforts, by inspiring other people to take similar actions. So that's point number one, is to consider the ways in which God can work through your campaign, saving lives, inspiring hearts and minds, impacting eternal souls. There are many different ways in which he can do that, and just invite you to expand your imagination in the ways that God can work in and through your efforts. Point number two is to think about people on the periphery who might be able to pray for your efforts. Now, there's many people who can't come to your vigil, but can still, this is a prayer campaign, can still spiritually participate in your campaign. For example, you think about the people in convents or monasteries, particularly enclosed monasteries. These are prayer hotspots, asking these people for prayers and help. Now, if you ask a particular convent or monastery to pray, they're very close to God, they're very fervent in their prayers, that's going to really, really help your efforts. Whether you ask them to pray for you or to pray for others, it's going to make a big difference. Asking prisoners, approaching prisons, asking prisoners to pray for your efforts through the chaplain. Many women in prison are post-abortive, and you never know the impact that you could have. Approach the chaplain, ask for their prayers or participation in the campaign. They can still pray in a prison cell. It's still going to be part of your campaign. You can't come to your vigil, obviously. C, approaching elderly care homes, ask them to pray for your campaign, or the elderly, or the people who otherwise may not be able to come to your vigil. D, you could also think about spiritually adopting a parish in another country to which you have spiritual solidarity with your efforts. For example, e.g. in an African country, you might be able to do more outreach than possibly you could imagine in another country. Some parishes have a link with another parish in another country. Spiritually adopting another parish or another campaign around the world, having that link, that relationship, that could be a nice way of of also thinking of people on the periphery. You can also send out a mountain load of mass text messages asking a lot of people to pray in crisis pregnancies at the abortion centre. So, for example, to ask to pray for a particular person who's abortion-minded right now and is seconds away from going for an abortion, sending a text message out to 100 people on that asking for that particular prayer intention. That's another way to get people on the periphery. And then also to ask every single parish in the diocese to come and pray for your efforts, if not joining you in person, praying for your intentions too. So asking parishes in the diocese, they can't come and join you, to come and pray too. Also think about maybe getting a chaplain to support you in this work, building a strong team so that you can share the work. So point number 2 was think about the people on the periphery who might be able to help and pray for your efforts, whether that's prisons, nursing homes, people in other countries, a chaplain, getting a team together. That's how you're going to get people on the periphery to make your efforts stronger. Point number 3, think about the ways to communicate your campaign to others. Think of all the different ways in which you can communicate your campaign to others. Use all the social media that you can to attract, direct and connect people to your local campaign, getting press releases to the local newspapers. Use an amazing story of transformation to communicate the heart of the message that you have. For example, a mother who chose life, a post-abortion healing, a hero volunteer. When we went to Nairobi in Kenya, Anne Kioko, our leader there, she's actually an abortion survivor. So her testimony was stunning as we were praying outside the abortion centre there with Hayward Robinson, who's a former abortion worker. We had on one side an abortion survivor, on the other a former abortion worker praying outside Mary Stopes, and subsequently Mary Stopes has been challenged by the government in Nairobi, have stopped doing abortions temporarily in Nairobi thanks to the intervention of the government. Our words, our impact can have an impact way beyond our largest imaginations as well. Other ways to communicate your campaign to others. Contact all the media, the Christian media, with a positive message. Personally invite people with a strong elevator pitch. Be positive, upbeat and joyful in your communications. Give an account of the positive blessings of 40 Days for Life, of the things that have happened through your local efforts. And think about the contentious issues which drive interest in the debate too. Other ways to communicate on the internet, we've used articles, podcasts, through other organisations, communication channels, and through friendly organisations too. And don't be afraid to be present on the secular media too. Don't be afraid of secular media. Sometimes there are journalists who just want to make an example and are sometimes a nuisance. Other times there are opportunities on the secular media. And also think about doing media training, such as Catholic Voices, to be ready for combat on secular media too. So point number 3 is think of the best ways to communicate your campaign to others. Point number 4 is pray and ask God how you can be a channel of His grace in deepening your pro-life efforts and commitments as well. So maybe there's a way that God can use the pro-life experience that you've had to help hundreds of other people in a similar circumstance. Maybe you might be post-abortive and can share that testimony, inspire hundreds of other people. Maybe you're a leader and can invite other people to positions of leadership. Maybe you were helped outside an abortion centre and now you're the spokesperson for the women who've been helped in similar circumstances, like Alina, how God can use one person who's been in a position of need, a position who's been helped, and now is going to help hundreds of people in similar circumstances. Maybe you can run a crisis pregnancy centre and find the best practices that can be implemented everywhere in assessing the best practices for the industry as well. So point number 4 is to pray and ask God how you can be a channel of His grace in deepening your pro-life efforts and commitments too. So point number 5 is put first things first. And that is essentially, we did 2 podcasts on this, is to take care of your own spiritual life. Prayer is at the centre of this campaign. It's the centre of our own lives as well, and developing a strong relationship with God so that He can deepen and improve your pro-life apostolate in a way that is holy and pleasing to Him. A book, The Soul of the Apostolate, develops this theme. Being beyond reproach, practising servant leadership, practising order. And, you know, I've heard the example of cascading champagne glasses at a wedding. If we fill up the topmost priorities in our life first, and then the cascading champagne goes down, the glasses, everything is up in order. If you fill up the glasses at the bottom of the champagne flutes at the beginning, then the glasses at the top don't necessarily get filled. If we do first things first, put God at the center of our lives, take care of our own spiritual life, then we're in a position to be able to serve and help other people. So point number 5, put first things first. Point number 6 is get the best formation and training available. So that's pretty straightforward. Listen to some of the best pro-life videos or podcasts on the internet. We've been doing podcasts and videos for quite some time now, listening to the latest news and updates, emails, conferences, speakers and topics, keeping yourself informed, learning the intricate parts of the debates, maybe like abortion pill reversal, the buffer zone debate, informed consent, learning the intricate parts of the debate and how we can influence them, and always be willing to give an account of the hope that is within you, from 1 Peter 3:15. So point number 6 is getting the best formation and training possible, finding out the best practices and sharing them everywhere. That is the best way to move forward. Point number 7 is practice the best team building skills for maximum effects. This campaign is not a one-man band campaign. It's designed to be a team, to share the load, and having a strong team is the most important way to lead the best local campaign. Edifying and building up local team will help maximize your efforts. Think about the formation of your team and leadership continuity for the future. Not everyone can carry on doing the same campaign forever, and your efforts are going to be expanded much further by thinking about leadership continuity, who's going to come after you, building up younger people. Patrick Lancioni's book on team building, such as all his books on team building, such as the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Think of the way that you can work together as a team is so important. And as servant leadership, not a dictatorship, serving the team, be willing to do the lowest items first. I always think of Mother Teresa scrubbing the loos. She was willing to take the lowest position in the community to serve the others, and through that servant leadership, that's how we have strong campaigns, and it is through our leaders that is how we have strong campaigns and having fun and practicing team building activities. All those things are going to help build up a strong team as well. So point number 7 is practice best team building skills for maximum effects. Point number 8 is consider the best practices for community outreach as well. So maybe it's having grace-filled conversations with passers-by, reaching people where they're at. Maybe it's having a stall in public, reaching thousands of shoppers. We've been to some public outreach events down in South London, in Lewisham, public days, having a pro-life stall, speaking to hundreds of ordinary passers-by with grace-filled conversations. There's great ways to reach the public. We found knocking on doors in London, people were less open. Collaborating with other pro-life organisations with mutual complementarity. Thinking about door-to-door, media, schools, universities, public debates as well. These are all best practices for community outreach. And proven methods. Find extroverts who like engaging with the public, who use methods of engagement that work. Those are the things that are going to help with community outreach, which is one of the 3 central points of 40 Days for Life. And consider us showing pro-life films, events that engage and inspire your audience as well. So point number 8 is consider the best practices for community outreach. In some communities, some forms of outreach work really well, whether it be schools, universities, in the street activism. Find the way of community outreach that works best in your community and find the answers to how to best to implement that. Point number 9 is to build a national campaign. So you've led a great local campaign, now what? And we've heard from our previous leaders how campaigns spread across different countries to find ways to inspire, attract and connect and recruit leaders for a national campaign. If you're from a country where you've had a great campaign and there are other people in other cities who are saying, oh, that's inspiring, we'd love to do the same thing, find best practices and share them everywhere. Identify key opportunities in communities for the best locations for campaigns and efforts. And it's really been a wonderful experience for me seeing, the grace-filled way of how 40 Days for Life has spread internationally. We've spread over 6-7 times over in the 6 years that I've been working for 40 Days for Life, and seeing the campaign spread in these different countries has been deeply powerful and inspiring. And think about developing leaders and recruit people intentionally with key talks, searching for and identifying leaders who can take things to the next level. So point number 9 is, once you've led a good local campaign, what next? If there are other people in your country who are interested, think about building a national campaign, and that goes up to building an organisation and taking these efforts to further apostolates and inspiring others, taking things to the next level. And lastly, point number 10 is consider how God can amplify your efforts. You know, we hear about Gideon in the Bible. He had just 300. We had just 300 people. You know, often we've had a theme of hope today. Often we feel we're alone. We need solidarity. We need hope in the pro-life movement here. But God doesn't really do maths with a trinity, 100-fold returns, workers in the vineyard who don't get paid properly or fairly. Sometimes it sees that the mathematics is a mystery to God, and that God can grow your efforts exponentially. As I said, apostolates are designed to grow, to attract more people, to get involved, and to expand. And just think about abortion internationally. You know, Mary Stokes' presence in Africa, in countries where they have 85% of the population in some African countries is opposed to abortion, still they have a presence of a clear abortion providers. Imagine what God could do in some of these countries, recruiting and inspiring leaders to take pro-life efforts, which are very, very small stage in many African countries at the moment. How God can lift up people on the local level to extraordinary action. In China, 50% of the world's abortions happen in one country in China. Like, what could happen with building up the pro-life movement in China for the future? I know the repressive government there, but you know, God can work in and through individuals exponentially through incredible results. Thinking of the ways that God can work in and through your efforts. Down in Twickenham, where recently the buffer zone has recently been imposed this week, Justine has led an incredible campaign there. It's seen over 500 women choose life over 5 years of full-time presence outside Twickenham. God doesn't necessarily do maths. Your presence literally can save a life, can save hundreds of lives, and you can inspire other people who can also save hundreds of lives, leading to thousands, etc. in terms of growth. Think about how you can connect with hundreds of like-minded people worldwide with your own personal story of transformation too. Ask God for wisdom, discernment, and to open your heart to accomplish his will beyond your wild imagination. 40 Days for Life is the beginning of the end of abortion. Ask God how to end abortion on his own terms, and also be inspired by the results as well. Well, I want to thank each of you personally. The many people who've travelled a long way to be here. We love you. We appreciate you so much. We want the very, very best for your local campaigns, and we want to take them to the next level. And we want to help your efforts go exponentially. However difficult, however isolated your position is, however challenging the local environment is, I hope that you've received mutual inspiration from others and met people from many different countries who've been here today. And we keep on building this event, we keep on getting it better and better each time, and we keep on growing in this country. So thank you so much for being here.